Alright, today I'm working on a John Deere XUV835R John Deere side-by-side. Basically lost power while a customer was driving it. He did notice the smell of antifreeze, but he wasn't sure if that was a problem, so he added some. And then he went out to drive it again, and it started losing power slowly as he was driving and eventually completely shut off. Would not restart. So he called me, asked me if I wanted to work on it. I said, sure. I haven't really worked on many of these, not too familiar with it, but an engine's an engine, I guess. So I initially discovered that turning the key on primed the fuel system. I had fuel spraying out of one of the injectors. It looks like there's a hole in the side of the body of the injector. So anytime the fuel system primes, it just sprays gas all over. And I thought, well, maybe it's not building fuel pressure. I don't know how fancy the control computer system is in this thing, but so then I went and tried to start it with starting fluid. It will not fire at all. When it cranks over, it did sound like it really doesn't have much compression, but again, I've never listened to another one of these cranking over, so I didn't know. Basically, won't start on starting fluid. It does have spark. So then I checked the timing belt. And I discovered the timing belt cover is kind of melted, which is really odd. I got one screw out. I couldn't get the other little bolt out. Got the timing cover off, cranked it over. It does turn, but there's a lot. It's hard to see, but there's a lot of slack in the belt. So I suspect, also before this I did a compression test, and there was zero compression on one cylinder. I'm getting to the next cylinder. Actual spark plug boots are completely melted into the spark plug wells. I have to rip the wire off and then use a screwdriver to break up all the busted or all the hard plastic stuff in there and then blow it out. So it's taken a little while, but it pretty much sounds like it has no compression on any cylinders. I suspect timing jumped somehow and probably bent all the valves. And he drives it pretty fast down the road, drives it like a pickup basically around the local streets and stuff. So still trying to figure out, I'm not sure if this is a John Deere suspected it's a Yanmar engine, but I think it might be a Chery. So anyway, it's a 2019 model. It's got 12,000 miles on it. Otherwise, it's running fine. I know there is a little coolant leak at the plastic seam of the radiator, so I don't think that probably didn't contribute to it. I think it basically jumped time. Maybe the tensioner has failed or something happened in there, but it's a little dirty on top, but I don't know. So we're just going to start tearing into it. I suspect it has no compression on the other cylinders. There's no compression on one anyway, so I pretty much got to pull the head and see what we're up against, get down in here and get the timing belt cover off. It's basically like working on a front wheel drive car, unfortunately. But yeah, so I'm going to keep tearing it apart and we'll see what we find. Plug wires are completely Just everything is all melted and rotted together here. Connect all these for the last compression test. Have to ground out the plug wires. We don't want to arc the coils internally and wreck them. All the junk out of that one. Might wind up replacing these plug wells. I don't know. Wind up scratching them, putting big dents in them. Looks clean. That's pretty white, clean, not too white. Let's see what we got. Yeah, 0. Check this last one. Nothing. Pretty sure all the valves are bent. I think we'll disconnect the battery and start pulling it apart. Alright, I got most of the stuff off. Down to the timing belt. Which seems a little loose, but I don't know if that's loose enough to jump time. I'll have to do the timing procedure and see whether it's still lined up or not. But most of the stuff is off. Actually, the engine is pretty close to coming out completely. Pretty much. So, check the timing, get the head off, and see what it looks like. So I got the valve cover off and decided I would do a leak down test because I didn't actually see anything. It's not out of time. I've checked the timing, it's in time. It seems to be in time. From best I can tell, there's not a very good service manual for this engine. Probably the John Deere manual is pretty good, but I don't have that one. So I decided to do a leak down test. And as you can see, got pretty much almost 100% leakage rather. If I cover the intake valve port of this first cylinder, there's a difference in sound, but there seems to be quite a difference in sound when I cover the second one. I don't have the exhaust manifold off yet, so I can't actually hear any different sounds there, but I'm wondering if there's head gasket failure or something along those lines. And I'm also going to look up and double check exactly what the timing procedure is to see if it is out of time, if it jumped time or something. So I'm going to double check that and get back to tearing it apart. Alright, I think I got the timing procedure figured out. Crankshaft gear is that mark to a pointer in the casting. It's like a dot on the crank gear. The other mark is here. This exhaust cam gear sprocket to this mark, which is a little indentation in the casting. And then the other marks, I've got the number 1 at TDC. The other marks are here, and there's a single mark on the intake cam that goes between 2 marks on the exhaust cam. They're not exactly, it's really hard to focus on this. They're not exactly horizontal, I guess you'd say right now, but seems like they could be turned a little bit more to get into mesh, but they are in mesh. So it technically is timed. So I don't think it jumped time. I did a leak down test on the rest of the cylinders, and I'm getting a tremendous amount of leakage, and a lot of it's coming back through a different cylinder, the one that I'm not testing. So, and even some leakage sound coming out of the coolant port. So I don't know if the head gasket is wiped out yet. I got to pull the head off. It certainly seems like there's a lot of leakage past the rings if there's so much noise coming out in the adjoining cylinder. So I'll keep tearing into it and see what we find. Looks like we have some scoring on the cylinder walls, and you can still see crosshatch. It's definitely discoloration. And there's, I'll have to measure that, but might be okay. Definitely some movement there, but there should be some. Check the head. Don't see any obvious signs of the head gasket blown out, but I have to pull it off there and look a little closer. I'm trying to keep these followers from, well, I guess they'll stay in there. Shouldn't lose the followers. I don't see any obvious signs of leakage. It might be missing something, but seems like the sealing rings are intact. It's hard to imagine there'd be that much cylinder leakage through just the rings. I have to check and see if the head is warped at all. I guess we'll check that next. Alright, I'm back on the Gator project. Pretty much determined that the engine needed rebuilding, but the customer was able to negotiate a deal with the John Deere dealer where they would provide a new engine that I would install instead of rebuilding the old one. And the customer already has a brand new Gator 2024, so he's happy. John Deere's waiting for me to get this one done so they can get it in and get it cleaned up and sold. Got the engine pulled out. It's shoehorned in there pretty tight. I imagine they dropped the whole thing in as assembly with the transaxle, but I just pulled the engine out. So John Deere dropped off a new engine in the crate. I had it on the cherry picker here earlier, and then I set it back down. It's pretty much got everything on it, right down to a brand new computer. So should be a fairly simple drop in. It's going to be really tight with all this stuff on there though, so it's going to be a challenge. The old engine is here, but I need to swap the motor mount brackets and things over. I got this one off there already. John Deere, when using these Team brand clutches, uses a special 11/16/24 clutch removal tool. So I don't have anything like that because that's not really a standard thread unless this was 1890 or something. But so I ordered the tool online and they sent me the wrong one. So waiting on that. As you can see, the clutch just fits on this tapered snout. Pretty straightforward. I did pull the engine with the clutch on there. It was pretty tough, so I want to put the new one in without the clutch on there because that really got in the way. So, but yeah, it's pretty much a brand new engine, brand new ECU plug, brand new harness, starter generator or starter alternator. It's all on there, so. So basically, I'll just have to drop it in, put oil in it, and see how it runs. It's going to be really tight though, because in here, this area here is a bracket that goes to the transaxle or rear end or whatever you want to call it, transmission, and that is really tight in there. So I might have to actually remove the alternator. Probably, maybe the starter, but it also has this new plate pre-installed, so that made it a little simpler. Didn't have to pull a flywheel or anything, but the old one got really hot. In fact, it got so hot it melted the plastic of the temperature sensor, so I don't think he was actually getting a warning on his dash. I think it was just open circuit. Maybe not, but the wire was disconnected, so. And I guess they don't want this old one back as a core, so it might be fun to tear it apart and see what it needs. Obviously it's got some play. Whoops. Kind of hard to tell in a video, but it had pretty much zero compression. So yeah, anyway, we'll get this thing, get the new engine in there and get it fired up and wait for the clutch tool. Cooling hose up here to reconnect. The one that's been dripping all over my floor every time I move this thing around. in there. Okay. That should be it. The upper one is off. No diagram. Look in the manual, I could pull the maybe fuel pump fuse to do the priming, but we'll see. This will get it filled with coolant. You gotta bleed it from here. I can hear it bubbling just so slightly. Put that back in and check our fluid level. And it's gone down quite a bit. I'll just leave that out. Add some coolant up front. Hear it. Hear it bubbling. Put the water hose on that. Clean that mess up. The last part of the coolant bleeding procedure is to, if you have HVAC or basically heating and air or a heater, supposed to jack up. Show you here the left front of the vehicle. And then here are the cooling hoses, or the hoses for the heater core. You're supposed to remove this, I guess what I would call, what they used to call like an old flush cap. But they want you to remove that and fill that in order to get the air out of the heater core tubes. I think we'll use a funnel. I'll just carefully pour some in out of a cup. Can't imagine it's going to take very much. Yeah, not too much. Well, with the left front jacked up, as you can see, that's completely full. Put that back on. Now it says to run it until the cooling fan turns on, which means the thermostat is open, and then shut it off and open up the bleeder at the back of the near the engine. See if there's any more bubbles that come out, and then check coolant levels, and it should be good. I'm still getting more coolant in the radiator. It's just a slow process. Takes a little bit more at a time. But these systems are touchy with the radiator up front and the engine in the rear. That's always been a problem for cars and everything. It's really critical to get all the air out. Like at this point, it's ready to start. I'm going to hook the ignition coils back up and push it outside. The oil filter should be full by now. I'll let it run and warm up and hold it somewhere near 2000 RPM for 20 minutes if possible. Make sure the cam is worn in correctly. Alright, so I wanted to dimension this team clutch removal tool. If you're handy and you can, single point these threads on a lathe at home, You save yourself 40 bucks or whatever. So I'll give you some dimensions here. We've got 611 thousandths there on the part that goes in. That's 611 thousandths, and then you've got approximately that's kind of crude, but you know, somewhere around 2.875, so 2 7/8 for a lead-in. Your threads are again 11/16 24. As you can see, it's just over, it's, you know, 681, so it's just over 5/8, but it's not, you know, it's not 3/4. And it's not metric. It's irritating. That's what it is. And so you've got 3 60 thousandths of threads. Whatever. 3 60 thousandths. Probably don't need this end, but if you want to make an exact copy, we've got 1.540, 1 540 thousandths. This part is approximately 830 or so, 830 thousandths. They've got a 3/4 hex. I don't know. Let's do a simple tape measure. I haven't bought a 12-inch dial caliper yet. So we got 7. Yeah, the whole thing is 7 3/8. So again, if you're handy and single point threads on a lathe, you're smarter than me, but you could make your own tool and save some money, whiz one out quick, and you don't have to wait 2 weeks or whatever for it to show up and everything, because I had to wait around for the tool. Like I said, they sent me the wrong one, so a couple of weeks went by with this thing just sitting in the shop taking up space. So alright, just wanted to help you out with that. Okay, I wanted to make a conclusion video for the Gator engine swap. I didn't get really any footage of it driving around. I was going to do that and I kind of forgot. It's one of my first videos, so but basically everything went smoothly. I got the coolant system burped out. Had a little leak with a cooling hose, one of those spring clamps that's on there. Swapped it to a worm clamp, and that stopped the leak. Went out and did some test driving with it, and I got kind of scared because it wouldn't go very fast. I was like, oh man, I thought something was wrong. It was limiting your speed. The engine was dying out. And it said on the computer there was a hang tag, and it said, you know, that it's going to need the most current John Deere update. Of course, I have no way to do that. The dealer would have to do it anyway. I didn't have the seat belt on, and yeah, it just dogs out and pretty much won't go over a few miles an hour or whatever, or 5 or 10 miles an hour. I was like, never heard of that, but that's the way things are now, I guess. So yeah, I just put the box back on, drove it around for a little while, didn't have any problems, checked the coolant, checked the oil. Pretty much that was it. Let the dealership know, and they came and picked it up, and I don't know if they got it sold yet, but hopefully they did. So yeah, overall it wasn't a bad project, not too difficult. Just the weird thing is the clutch removal tool is unique to team clutches, TEAM clutches. So I don't know if all team clutches are that way, but I don't think I've ever had anything in my life that was 11/16 24 thread, so that was really odd. But anyway, not a bad project. Trying to remember, I had to buy some parts for it. I was trying to think back what my hours were on the whole swap. I'll have to check. Maybe I can pencil it in later. I don't know what John Deere's flat rate is. I'm sure it's faster, but anyway, I'm just here working alone, so I'm slow. Anyway, not a bad project. I wouldn't be afraid to take it on. If your engine burns up or blows up or whatever, again, it's a Chery SQ3 engine, Chery SQ3. It's basically a Chinese car motor engine, and you can get them off Amazon, the whole thing, for like $1,000 for a whole, almost the whole engine. It's going to have probably, I looked it up, and I think it had the wrong oil pan. But if you have a John Deere Gator engine, you know, and you're basically your long block is destroyed, or you don't want to pay to have all the machine work done, you could buy one of those engines, swap your oil pan and whatever else over. I think you could just swap it all over. So some other machines, I think I read, use it, like some kind of Arctic Cat side-by-sides or something. So it's not unique to John Deere, but John Deere puts some of their own stuff on there. But anyway, something somebody could do in their garage with a cherry picker or a couple of friends to lift it out, and not complicated at all. So anyway, we'll see you on the next video. I also wanted to ask you to please like and subscribe if you like this content, and leave some comments below. Let me know what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong, or if it at least helped you a little bit. Thank you.